Tonight we take a look at the problem of affordable housing, but not so much at the problem as at one church's solution, as we meet some folks who once lived at one of life's pressure points, but who have now found affordable, decent housing through the help of the church. Good evening. Welcome to Pressure Point. I'm your host, Barbara Anderson. Tonight my special guest is Henri Locke, President of the First United Church Social Housing Society. Welcome, Henri, to the program. Our program tonight is called Homes for the Homeless, and we're looking at the projects that First United Church Housing Society has done in the downtown east side in terms of social housing projects, specifically with the Jenny Pentland Place, but also talking about some of the previous projects. And before we go on, Henri, I want to just talk a little bit about the context in which First United Church Social Housing Society finds itself. What is the situation there in the downtown east side in terms of housing?
Well, one of the key factors of the situation in the downtown east side is, of course, poverty. And when we are looking at the issue of housing, that is intimately related to the issue of poverty. For many people there, they are paying a misproportionate amount of money for housing. And so that means that when they pay a large sums of money for housing, that comes out of their food budget. And so often when we think about poverty, we think in terms of people not having enough food. Well, that is often, the reason for that often is that A, they don't have enough money, and secondly, they're paying high amounts of money for housing.
Proportionate to their income.
That's right.
And in fact, the housing that they're getting may not even be adequate housing to
Exactly. For example, the housing in the downtown east side in many cases is very poor, particularly in the hotels and some of the rooming houses. Just imagine yourself in a room 8 by 11 with one single bed. Perhaps you may have a hot plate, you may have a sink, but you'll be using the washroom and the shower facilities down the hall. And the halls usually are quite dark, they're not necessarily clean. Many of the rooms are infected by cockroaches, for example. And one of the key problems in the hotels is one of security. It isn't safe to live there. Often there is rowdiness, there is dangerous kind of activities that take place. So it's not safe, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like a home for many people.
But we should mention that people, their choice to live there is not necessarily a choice to live in that place, but because there are no other alternatives necessarily. Is that right?
Exactly, because housing in Vancouver is expensive. And when you're on a low income, then you simply can't afford the housing that may be available for higher income people.
Now, a year or so ago when Expo was in town, there was a lot of media hype about the people being turfed out of the hotels to make room for tourists. Has that situation changed somewhat now that Expo's gone? What's happened to those people who formerly lived in the hotels? Are they back in those same hotels now, or are they now living somewhere else?
Well, many of course were forced to move out and then found other places, and it's difficult exactly to know where they went. Some of them found other places in the downtown east side. Many of them were forced outside of the downtown east side. Some of them ended up being homeless and had to find places in the parks or under the bridges.
They didn't go back to the hotels then that supposedly were upgraded. I may put the term.
It's true in some cases, but in many cases it's very difficult to trace the people and find out where they have been.
So into that context then comes the First United Church Social Housing Society, which started how far back? When did it start?
We really got going in 1981 because many people were coming to First United Church clamoring for housing. They needed housing that was affordable, that was decent, that gave them a sense of home. And there aren't many places like that for low-income people in the city. And so we had many applications for that, particularly for some of the city-owned projects in the downtown east side. The province also owns some projects managed by British Columbia Management and Housing Corporation. And First United Church was taking applications for that. So we had a good indication of the housing need. And we decided that one of the concrete things that we were able to do in terms of a ministry to the people in the downtown east side and people to all over Vancouver, because we're getting applications from everywhere in Vancouver, was to start a housing society so that we perhaps could be the facilitators for creating new, decent and affordable housing for people.
Did you start your housing society on the cooperative model of cooperative housing or on a different model altogether?
No, it was a different model. It's under the same program that is offered by the federal government, but we decided to go to the non-profit society route as opposed to the cooperative housing society or cooperative housing route, mainly because we felt that we needed to put up the housing quite quickly. And although we tried to get people from the community involved, of course, and people did get involved from the community, we felt that going the housing society route was the best way to go.
So you started like a board? We
started a board and established various committees and incorporated ourselves under the Societies Act of the province.
So you're separate from the church then?
That's right. We're a separate organization from the church, although we have many friendship links and cooperative links with the church.
What was your first project as a society?
Our first project actually was to look at First United Church site, where the church is located right now, and see whether or not we could use that site to build social housing. And the first idea that we had was to tear the building down and build a housing project that also would have a church component to it. The first 2 floors would be the church mission, and the remainder of the building would be housing. Now that fell through. We weren't able to put the numbers together, the finances together for that. But we were able to negotiate with the city for a piece of land just down the road, 2 blocks down the street from the church. And the church and the city purchased that land, and we developed a project called Bill Hennessy Place. And that is now standing there. It's 70 units, and it's been quite a journey to get to the point of an idea to having actual building in place.
Quite a success story too. I remember being there when the opening ceremonies were held, and I believe it was you and someone else, Bill Hennessy, probably cutting the ribbon of that big project, and seeing the delight in the new tenants' faces as they realized this was a building that they could live in that was their own. But you haven't stopped there. You've gone on to another project which is opening or has opened already?
It has opened already. It's Jenny Pentland Place, which is just across the street from Bill Hennessy Place. And that opened January 1st. We had 86 households move in on January 1st, which is a very difficult time for people to be moving.
Wow, it sure is. New Year's Day.
But people were very happy to move in there because it was a new building. Each unit was self-contained. That meant that each unit had its own washroom, its own shower, its own kitchen, including a fridge and a stove, as opposed to having just a hot plate and no fridge and using the washroom and the showers down the hall, as in many of the hotels.
Before we go a little bit more into the description of the actual project, Bill Hennessy was a noted community worker in the downtown east side. Who is or was Jenny Pentland?
Jenny Pentland was a woman who worked in the downtown east side with Andrew Rodden, who was the minister at First United Church many years ago.
Was she a member of the First United Church?
She was a member of the staff of First United Church, and she ran many of the mothers' programs of that time, and quite a number of mothers in the area, and she would gather with them and do various activities with mothers. And she was known as the Florence Nightingale of the downtown east side.
Is she still alive? Or?
No, she isn't, no.
Okay. Well, maybe you could now take us on a bit of a tour of Jenny Pentland Place and tell us what is in that complex and what some of the exciting and unique kind of offerings in that complex are.
Right. Well, one of the first things that need to be said about the building, like I mentioned before, is that each unit is self-contained. That means that every unit has a washroom, has a shower, and has a kitchen. And that is a very positive feature for people, because now they have a place that they can really call their own. And it's affordable for them as well.
Are these one-bedroom, two-bedroom, bachelor?
One bedrooms and two bedrooms and three-bedroom units.
For families or single people?
For both. We have a really good mix of people in the buildings. We have seniors, we have couples, we have single-parent families, we have single people who live in the bachelor suites that we have. So it's a mixed community.
And it's on different levels, like there's what, how many floors would there be?
There is 7 levels in Bill Hennessy Place and 8 levels in Jenny Pentland Place.
And are they both similar in terms of the architecture?
No, they're different designs, and they look quite different, actually, if you compare the two buildings.
And do they both hold the same number of units?
Bill Hennessy Place has 70 units, and Jenny Pentland Place has 86 units.
What about some of the features for community-style living that are within the building?
Well, each of the buildings have community space. And Bill Hennessy, for example, has a lounge right on the main floor, and a lot of people use that just to sit and to look out of the window and to meet their friends. We also have a children's space, and that is a very useful space. The kids often go down there. There's toys available there for them. And one of the tenants in Bill Hennessy Place took it upon himself to draw and paint designs and pictures on the walls. And so they're permanently on the walls right through the building. You'll see some of those pictures in the children's space, and also see pictures of mountain scenes or winter scenes on some of the levels of the building. And so there's a real sense of ownership by this particular tenant over that building. He felt that he was able to give something back to the sense of the building by painting the walls.
Now imagine you've had a lot of people apply. Have you had to turn away people for the two projects that you've...
Oh yes, for Jenny Pentland Place we had over 600 applications. And of course we were only able to have 86 households. And so a lot of people like to move in, and it just emphasizes the fact that the need is so high for affordable housing.
Are you thinking, is the society thinking of having maybe another project after this one?
Yes, right now we're working on a third project, which is going to be not in the downtown east side, it's going to be in the Mount Pleasant area. And we're right in the midst now of doing the negotiations and making the application to the BC government. And it's going to be a 33-unit project. And it actually has a very interesting feature, something that hasn't been tried before anywhere else in Canada. Each of the units in that project is going to be adaptable for wheelchair use. That means that if you have a family move in who, for one reason or another will have a member who perhaps once was an able-bodied person but needs to use a wheelchair, they don't have to move out of that unit. They can stay within the unit, and it can be made adaptable for the use of the person in the wheelchair.
But
that means that some of the counters can be raised or lowered depending upon the need.
Well, that is new and unique, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Fascinating. Well, what about your recommendations for other churches to start similar projects of this kind? It sounds like you have done, the society has done some exciting work in housing and in considering new concepts and new alternatives. Would you recommend this for other churches as well in other parts of the city or in other cities throughout the province?
Yes, I would definitely recommend it to other churches. Housing is one of those basic needs, and they often are extreme needs for people. To have a decent home is something that we would all expect to have, and there are many people who aren't able to afford a decent home to live in. And so it's a real ministry to the community to be involved in the development of affordable housing for people. And so many churches may have perhaps a parking lot, for example, right next to the church, that might be developed into social housing. Or there might be a man's property that they may have that perhaps they don't know what to do with it anymore and they would like to do something with it. Perhaps that might be appropriate for a social housing project.
They only have to look around them and see
That's
what
right.
their assets or their resources are,
Exactly.
and see how they can be turned into that.
Or like what we did, we negotiated with the city of Vancouver for the city to purchase the land on our behalf, and so that we could develop a housing project on it. And so that's another option.
You've obviously had a lot of experience, and the Society has had a lot of experience with developing housing projects. Is there any learning that you've had on the way that you could pass on to our viewers or to some churches who may be considering this possibility? A way to sort of smooth the road for them, as you've learned from perhaps some mistakes, not necessarily mistakes you've made, but some of the directions and roads you've taken that have not proved as fruitful as they could have been.
Yeah, well, one of the main learnings that we had during that time is that when we first started out, none of us, I think, really knew what we were going to get into. We weren't experienced in development of housing at all. But we hired some help, and there is help available. And we were able to hire that help to point the way, each step along the way. There's resource groups in the city of Vancouver that other churches can use all over the province, actually, or you can hire somebody who is able to develop housing and basically guide us along the way. And that is one of the main learnings that we had, that it's important to get expert help. It's not to do it all on your own,
but to find that expert help. And would you recommend that maybe some churches who are interested could contact the First United Church Social Housing Society to find out more information if they're really concerned?
That's right, and perhaps one of the best ways to really have information is to come down and visit our projects and meet with us so that we can talk about it and really give people a feel of what some of the possibilities are.
Sounds like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk with some of the residents now of Bill Hennessy and Jenny Pentland Place.
It's the privacy that I like here. And the people that live here, most of them are quite nice. And the shopping is quite convenient. And this garden out here that George is working on now, he does a fabulous job. It's a real pleasure to look out my window and see what he's doing down here. It's really nice out there. He really puts an awful lot of work into it. But it's my privacy, and well, the floor I live on, there's no noise up there.
Jenny Pentland Place, I just moved in the first year. It's terrific. Man, everything he wants right there. Quiet, scenery's terrific. Gorgeous, I got my own cooking facilities. I practice a little cooking there, and I cook for the First United Church during the days. So I'm spoiling them over there. They like it, and I love it. Putting too much weight on me, though, but it's great. I was staying at the Astoria, and just one little room, and you got to walk in, back out, or vice versa. So there was nothing there hardly at all. The parlor closes at 1 o'clock, and then the party starts upstairs after 1. So you actually are awake all the time. Well, this is terrific. I thank the church for getting me in here. It's terrific. Once it's fixed up and everything's in place, the garden and everything, it'll look terrific. So I'll help out as much. If you want me to volunteer over there, I'll do it. So anytime you want me, I'm great. I'm around. Hey, I'm living like a king now. So it's terrific.
And I've lived in Vancouver since 1944, and I've always lived in the East End. I've never been west of Main or east of Glen Drive. And when you rent a room in the East End here, for years, the landlord would say the place was heated. They'd have a radiator there. It was never heated. And you had to wear your socks and sweater all the time. And whatever happened in the buildings, nothing was ever repaired, you know. And unless the city hall threatened, the wires were poor and the heating was poor. And I'd have to go to Harry Rankin, and, you know, he'd get things done that way. And what I find here, before I moved here, I had a 4-room apartment and I might as well have been sleeping outdoors. You know, it was so cold and miserable. And my gas bill was out of sight every month, you know. And when I moved here, I was so delighted to see a thermostat in my place, and everyone has one in their units. And so you can put it up as high as you want to and be comfortable all winter. And another nice thing here is everybody minds their own business, you know, nobody's meddling with each other. And there's a lot of pets here. There's a lot of dogs and cats and you know, it's very nice. So, and it's comfortable. And this area, there's, just go down to Powell Street and do your shopping. There's everything there, bakers and fish places and meat shops and bakeries. There's everything here. So you don't have to go out of the area like people that are crippled up and in wheelchairs and in walkers. They can just go to Powell Street. And when you go there, you can just buy one potato, one carrot, one onion if you want, and no eyebrows are raised, you know. And here it's very nice and it's very comfortable, and it's in the East End. That's what I like about it. I didn't have to move out of my area to find a place to live, a comfortable place at last, you know. And they have nice rugs on the floor and nice bathroom and a nice kitchen and plenty of cupboard space. I have 3 huge clothes cupboards, you know, and a nice cupboard in the linen closet in the bathroom where you can put your linen. And there's all kinds of cupboard space in the kitchens or down on the width of the sink and then all up in there. And you have a beautiful big 4-burner range, nice General Electric fridge. I have sunshine streaming in my window all day long, and it's nice and bright.
I was instrumental in getting my brother in the Bill Hennessy place, and from that time on I realized what the United Church was really doing for the people that needed help. And I wanted to get close to them too, because I kind of look after things and that, you know. And I'm perfectly satisfied where I am. Fine, sweet, it's clean, it's a good building. So I have no complaints. Where I lived before, after my wife died a year ago or more, I was in an apartment all by myself. It was a nice apartment in Guildford. But I realized that I could have a heart attack. I've got a bit of a condition in that, you know. And nobody would know it unless they came to collect the rent. You know, because I was isolated, you know, they're all middle-aged people and that, going to work and everything else, so consequently, just knew the manager, that was all. You know, so, and then I wanted to get in, be closer to my brother too, and other relatives, you know, in Burnaby and so on. But all in all, I'm very, very satisfied.
It's just a nice place. It's has a lot of children. I enjoy children, and everybody seems to be quite warm and caring. I lived in public housing for 8 years, you know, and I find it a lot different. Maintenance-wise, they never did any repairs. You know, it always took a long time to get anything done. If you had a leaky ceiling, it was too bad. It was just there. And every time the boiler went up top, you know, I got flooded out, and 5 times in 1 year was just enough the last time. I'm on a handicap pension now, and at the time I was very sick when I moved here. But over the years I've gotten a little bit better. I've been on the management committee for just a little over 1.5 years, and I've enjoyed it. You know, enjoyed the meetings and getting to know how the buildings run, and you know, it's really interesting to me. And I just enjoy being here.
It's nice and quiet, nobody bothers you. I have my own bathroom, which I never had before. all the places I've lived, you had to run down the hall to go to the bathroom. And I find that very good. It's just the privacy, you know. Nobody bangs on your doors. Don't bump into a bunch of drunks when you're going down the hall or anything. So I'm quite happy here. And I got my own little garden up on the balcony. So it's nice. I can't walk very well now. And the bus stop is right out here to go that way, or it's right across the street to go the other way. So, and then it brings you right home again, whichever way you're going. So it's right handy for that, especially for the older people, you know. And everything is nice and new, you know, compared to you used to get a bunch of broken down old furniture any place you rent and everything else. And, other places that I lived, they had some dirty old gas stove, you know, that was ruining all my pots and pans, and fridges would work and sometimes they wouldn't. You know, it's just old stuff that had been there for years and years. Where here we got everything brand new like that. A nice big new tub. Or if you wanted to have a bath before, you had to go and scour out the tub real good before you even tried it. So there's a lot of difference, you know, after trying to struggle through all that dirt and then get into a nice clean place. It makes a difference in living, you know. Gives you more incentive to get out and do things, and I think it's pretty good.
Working at both places, I find the people very, very nice, and especially I like living at Jenny Pentland because I can be closer to the people and getting to know them better as neighbors and people I work for and with.
Well, this is terrific. I thank the church for getting me in here. It's terrific.
And on that note, we have to close. I'd like to thank you then, Henri, for coming and talking with us about the First United Church Social Housing Society. Wish you well in further ventures, and hope that the other churches will contact you and look at this whole area of ministry in their society.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on The Pressure Point. Good evening, and God bless.